Welcome to the first episode of Flannel Dads. I'm Dan. With me is Ryan, and we are two children of the 90s who are still obsessed with grunge music and everything that came with it. So we kind of came together with this idea, now that we're both dads and we still wear flannels that we wore in the 90s, that we would like to talk about all the things that we love and still reminisce around that decade, specifically in music. So, welcome, Ryan. Thank you for joining me this evening.
Thank you. Yeah, I have an admission. I learned something about myself today. I don't own flannels anymore.
I'll
So,
send you one because I have at least 10 for all seasons.
so for our new listeners, which is all of you, I live in North Carolina, where flannels are not necessarily needed, and Dan lives in Chicago, where they are. Even in April, it was 92 degrees here yesterday. So,
My
yeah,
God.
flannel makes me kind of sick. But yeah, I'll look into getting a lightweight one for the show.
Well, I'd say I've adapted now. I roll back the sleeves, so that's the dad adaptation of flanneling. Because back in the old days, it was all hanging down, unbuttoned,
Just
unkempt,
on.
as grungy as you could be. That was how we had to do it. So yeah, I do the fancier.
Do you remember the thick ones that had like the
Yeah,
insulation on it? Yeah, like
right.
yeah,
Those were our winter jackets in the
those could be
pretty
my
much.
winter jackets here. Maybe I should look into that for later in the season. But yeah,
After we outgrew the starter jackets, it was the flannel.
I'm gonna get a Hornet starter jacket as soon as I can find one on eBay.
Yeah.
But
All right. So episode one, we kind of both collectively decided to talk about Pearl Jam as one of those. And again, we're not necessarily um, literary experts on the subject of grunge music and all of its facets. We're purely just obsessive enthusiasts that was all we listened to, lived it and breathed it in that time period, and much of all those bands are still in regular rotation today. So I apologize if I offend any of the grunge,
the purists,
completists
yeah,
that say, yeah, purists that say, well, this was the first band or this was the best grunge band. It's like I'm not trying to take over that throne in any way, shape, or form. So Pearl Jam, to me, one of the big five of the Seattle grunge bands, where we had Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, Stone Temple Pilots. Those to me were the most commercially successful, the most widely played on MTV, and things like that. So those are kind of the big five grounding. And then to me, Pearl Jam is the most interesting of those because they're still around. They
yep.
didn't lose a singer. Those other four all lost their singers, along the way, and Pearl Jam has really never stopped. They escaped the '90s with all their band members intact. They adapted to the changing landscape of music, and kind of went their own winding path to find themselves and get new fan bases. So I mean, they're kind of like the winner of that that grunge grunge race from Seattle that kind of made their way out. So that was kind of why I thought, if we're talking about grunge, we should talk about one of the originals and still here today. So yeah. Any
It's a
initial thoughts on Pearl Jam yourself?
well, just another couple caveats that if any, we're not from Seattle. We didn't witness the scene, right? So we don't know the ins and outs. We know that the Big Five is where we'll focus. We are aware that there's many, many, many others that maybe we won't get to, right? Or maybe we will. And I think we'll see how this evolves. But the Big Five is probably where we'll start because from where we were in the time and the play, Chicagoland in the 90s, very far removed from Seattle and the actual scene of when it started. And I'm again not we're not history buffs, we're not history experts, Pearl Jam wasn't the first, I don't think.
No, definitely not.
Um, but maybe it probably was for us. That wave came on quickly for us.
Right.
All we had was radio and MTV, right? And so Pearl Jam, no, I like what you said there about they're the only one that survived, right? To
Right.
last longer. And we can get into, and we will, whether that was a good or bad thing. But,
Yeah.
but
I have
yeah,
many thoughts. Yeah.
to answer your question, just initial thoughts on Pearl Jam, the first two albums, and again, another thing we should, or I want to mention is that we were young. We
Yeah.
were, I think I was 11 or 12 and you were 12, 13, whatever. And
hmm
so, yeah, and we had limited access to, like I said, just radio, MTV. So all those things, I think that Pearl Jam was definitely my favorite out the gate.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think they were, it's hard to remember the order of
Right.
Nirvana first. I'm sure it was probably Nirvana.
Yeah. And I remember that
You
somewhat
probably were
distinctly that you were more Pearl Jam, I was more Nirvana in the beginning, the very beginning.
the very start. Yeah,
And and I think 91 is the year that like Smells Like Teen Spirit like cracked open the MTV,
the whole thing.
because before that it was, Guns N' Roses and, kind of that West Coast glam, the tail end of the 80s glam metal rock stuff, Motley Crue, that kind of stuff.
They were
And
still
then
hanging on. Yeah, they were still.
and
Yeah,
then that Nirvana, I mean everything was video. Like we weren't driving, so we weren't in the car
yeah.
to listen to radio. We didn't have radios at home like that we tuned into. So it was truly, this thing comes on MTV and we're like, holy shit,
What
what
the
the hell
fuck
was
is
that?
this?
And both, I mean, but I would say Nirvana was the first, probably for most people, just to be like completely different, like the visuals, the sound, the kind of rage and angst and in all of it. But then you and I mean, we were very, really close in those times, practically living together almost, because you were at our house all the time. But that was, I remember you pulling me more into the Pearl Jam direction, and I probably pushed more Nirvana onto you too in those beginning days, because again, I'm thinking back my first three CDs, because again, 90 91 was when CDs became the new media.
Yeah.
Nirvana Nevermind was one of my first three purchased. And Pearl Jam 10 was probably not in the first three, but in the next seven. So it was probably one of my
Oh,
first 10 that I purchased was Pearl Jam 10. So again, I admittedly started with Nirvana, and Pearl Jam was after that. So yeah, it's
by purchase, you mean BMG sent you a bunch for
right.
10 penny.
That was probably the second seven, or the seven of the first 10.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm slightly embarrassed to recount my first three CDs, because Nirvana Nevermind is a cool one. Metallica Black Album, another cool one.
Not
But
bad.
then it was Salt and Pepper Shoop. I was like, what the fuck? And
That's awesome that you remember that and are strong enough to admit it. I
I'm
love
embarrassed to say that
amazing.
that's what it was. Um, but yeah, anyway, so yeah, I think the MTV, you know, place, that was
It's
where
all
we
we
kind
had.
of got this stuff.
It's all
And
we had.
both bands, I mean, but even Pearl Jam, I mean, Jeremy, I think, was their
Jeremy,
probably first one that was
yeah.
like, holy shit, what the hell is this? This is serious and
Jeremy
cool.
was
And
probably the first song that I heard.
right.
Um, I'm pretty sure it was after Smells Like Teen Spirit, but I, again, that was so many years ago. But the
Yeah.
first Pearl Jam song I ever heard was probably watching watching the Jeremy video, which
Yeah.
wow, like that's crazy. Like that like Columbine and just all
Yeah.
like that's insane for a 10, 11 year old to. But I remember just loving the sound, loving the kind of the drive, the anger of that particular one,
Right.
right? Loved it, and just and yeah, 10, as soon as I got my hands on that, holy shit. Like that's stood the test of time for me. Just a 1,000,000%.
Yeah, it
I
doesn't have
listen.
a bad track on
It
it.
doesn't.
It's
And
perfect.
and again, a young kid, you hear the hits or the singles, and I don't know exactly how that worked, but you heard like the even flow would be the next one, or
Right.
block maybe, right? So you latch onto those, but then you start when I was kind of, I don't know, like mature enough to go and have like listen to the full album. There's not a bad track on that one.
No.
And we talked about that back then. We're like, holy shit, like this is incredible. But
Right.
the crazy thing to me is that it stood the test of time. It's
Yeah.
today I did listen to the whole album, like, and it's just it was life changing to
Yeah,
me.
I think one of the more this is probably an interesting meism type thing, but no, I completely agree 100%. 10 being so perfect, and yeah, to your point, we and I was very bad at this back in the day where I would just zoom into track 3 because you could do that with CDs. Like you have to
Yep.
think back earlier generations that only had records. Yeah, you could try to
Would do it,
lift
but
and jump to a thing, but it usually had to go from start to finish and had to suffer through all the fillers and things. But I mean, and truly, since we were CD era kids, I would only hear the non-hit song when my good hit song ended, and then the next track would start. And in Ten's example, it's always like, well, that sounds cool too, so I'll let it keep
yeah,
going. I won't just skip to track 5.
yeah,
So that was kind of how I, back in those early CD where you were really like, just a hit listener, but you just naturally kind of extended yourself into it. But the thing I was about to say now in current state time, I almost never listen to 10 ever. It's kind of like Dark Side of the Moon. Like it's so perfect, so awesome. It had such a place in my life that it's like I don't know. It's something switches off in a way where it's like I don't have an urge to go back. And whereas Verse and Vitology, I can't stop listening to those two over and over and over again. And
interesting.
it's kind of I think, I mean, again, I'm breaking into my own psychology that I likely will never understand, but I think ten was more easily digestible, would be a kind of way to say it, where the music, the lyrics, the stories, everything was kind of neatly packaged.
Yeah,
And that's why it kind of mainlined into everybody so much. And it sold like, it broke records in terms of album sales and still is on the top, top 5 or top whatever of all time album sales. And that's why. And Dark Side of the Moon, same thing. It's just like so pristinely organized and
packaged.
perfectly executed. Whereas I think I'm drawn more to Verses and Vitology because they're a little scratchy around the edges, and there's more like, I don't know, layers or things to like look under the surface at in terms of lyrics or just the musical choices they kind of did as a band. And so
Yeah,
that to me is like why it's always like it's like a bumpy road, but I'm like, ooh, I'm really, picking up new things I didn't pick up before, or stuff like that. So that's kind of, I think, why I always gravitate to those two specific albums from Pearl Jam, and also why I had kind of an adolescent rebellion when they changed their sound in No Code and Yield. And I don't know what they changed about it, but it didn't do the same thing for me. And whether that was their fault or my fault growing up and taste changing, but that's been for me a very weird personal kind of conflict with Pearl Jam, where I was like, I was so enamored in those first 3 albums and
yep,
so dissatisfied with the 4 and 5 albums that I kind of wrote them off for a long time. And you and I have talked about that, where it's like I disregard most of their catalog, or I have in the past. I've been more open to it lately, because I don't find the same level of complexity in songwriting, stories being told by by Eddie, and or the music just being not as nuanced and interesting. So, but
Yep.
again, personal. Again, sorry, I'm talking so much, but as you know, I go into these weird, dark, obsessive holes of music where I just kind of get in the mood for a band and I listen to nothing but that band for seriously like 6 to 8 weeks. It's like this where I can't get enough. Like I did Grateful Dead like a year and a half ago, and it was like all I listened to for like months and months and months. I've done Captain Beefheart, Frank Zappa. I go through weird like music
This-
hibernations. And so I've been in a Pearl Jam one for quite a while now, which is why I was like, we got to do it as the first episode. And I was on a plane going to Paris and had lots of time. So I downloaded every single Pearl Jam album on my Spotify so I could do it without Wi-Fi. And I did it. Starting at verse again. I didn't do 10, but so I did verse, Vitology, No Code, Yield, and then kept going by
Somewhere on.
whatever that one is. Um, and again, I had major memory flashbacks of some of those like tracks on those in between albums.
Really?
Um, and so I was like, I did give these the time of day at one point because this is a definitely memorable song. And then I was getting into Riot Act, and I was like, holy shit, this one has some of that stuff. And so I'm like, fuck, I've missed out. I've
No.
disregarded them for too long, and I didn't jump back in because that one had like more than a couple where I'd like pause. What's the name of this one? Like, which I
Yeah.
hadn't done with most of the other ones
The
before
three
it.
in
So
between. Yeah. No.
so I'm
See.
curious what your thoughts are on the because again, we're very impressionable when we're teenagers.
Yep. That's
And
another thing. That's a different. That's a great point. Great call out. Those, the first three were the first three we heard, and
yeah,
you know, kids that were 8 years younger than us, maybe no code was like.
yeah,
So my journey is the first three are the first three. They are the grunge era Pearl Jam. You throw in, the single soundtrack ones and Yell Ledbetter and Footsteps, and that's kind of the grunge, the Pearl Jam that I just loved and loved to death, and will never not love. I liked Verses more than most people. I like Vitology less than most people. I thought that the sound changed in Vitology a little too much for my liking. Um, but at first, I was like, that was the only album I've ever bought the first day it came out ever, and it was probably
yeah.
with we probably went to Grady Mills, and it wasn't the
And
same. What was that
I
store? But
think that I read recently, Brendan O'Brien is the producer of both the second and third album, and he had a really great interview with Rick Beato on YouTube where that was that expectation because 10 was a huge thing. Verses did very well,
it
and then
was one of those
Vitology.
fastest selling albums ever.
Yeah, like on the first day, like it had a record where it was like, holy shit, everybody did the same thing. So yeah, to your point, I think we all were waiting on because it was only a 2 year gap. I think it was 93 for versus 95 for Vitology. So it was people were hungry still for it to come out, and yeah, it
Yeah.
was a
So
cool album.
and
I mean, I remember the design of it was
it was
weird
fun
looking,
and weird and
had a
cool.
weird
It had a weird feel to it. Like it felt funny. Like it was a really cool thing. I didn't love the music at first. I grew to like it. Versus, I you like you said, it's a little rough around the edges. It's got some weird pieces to it, but I grew to love that just as much as 10 or more. Like
yeah,
just I listen to that all the time to this day. I mean, I think probably if you put a gun to my head and said, pick your five favorite Pearl Jam songs, three of them are probably on that, or
yeah. I
like
would probably agree with you
something
there.
like it would be probably between those two first albums. But and then Vitology came out. It was good. It took me a while to get there, but it's good. And then No Code happened, and it's a hot take, but when No Code first came out, I didn't buy it the first day it came out, but I bought it pretty early, right?
Yeah,
I don't remember where I was. I remember where I was when I listened to it. I hated it.
Right.
Absolutely fucking despise it. To like a weird point, to like a odd point where I felt like betrayed or let
Yeah,
down
it was
or
a betrayal,
something.
right?
It
Or
made me
how
like
could you guys screw this up?
so
Because you,
freaking badly. And like from start to finish, there's not one redeemable
right?
quality. Right? But and like so, I had like that. It turned out that was the last Pearl Jam album I bought. I don't. I like. I didn't. I didn't. We can get back into no code in a minute, but because I can rant on that for a while. But no, it's funny. When you text me and say, "Hey, we're gonna Pearl Jam," I was like, okay. The first three albums are pretty easy to talk about. They're pretty
Yeah,
internalized at this point, right? You remember what you felt then, you remember what you feel now about them, and how often you whatever. And the ones from No Code on were different. Like I said, the grunge period, and then there's the after, right? And so I was like the other day, I was like, all right, you know what? And I'm still like pissed about No Code. I'm like still upset about it. So I'm like, I'm gonna give it another listen to. So I gave it another listen to the other day. It fucking still sucks. Like it's what do we like? How? Who? Anyway, I mean, then there's so many reasons it's bad. But then
right.
they came
It's
up with the I don't know what was next, Yield or Binaural. Which one was next?
yield then biurnal,
And
and
those I didn't buy. Don't I didn't,
right.
but I did, and I didn't listen to them immediately. I didn't run to the what I don't know where were we at there, like LimeWire. I don't know what era we're talking about.
Probably around 2000. Yeah.
So like yeah, I didn't run to Napster to get those, but I eventually
No.
listened to them. They were better than No Code for sure,
Yes.
no doubt. And they have some kind of vitality. They have some, but to me, those two were they were you could put them on and not like get offended and get like
Right.
they were fine. They had some a couple that were like hey cool, and a couple WTFs like that was weird. Like there's one I think it was like there's like a poem involved and he's just like reading it, whatever. But so
Yeah.
those two were better than No Code, but that's a very low bar. And but I listened to those recently again, and I'm like, I feel the same way about them I did now. I was like, I didn't turn it off. I listened to it, it's whatever. But then I don't know. I got into kind of the what I don't know what they called it, like the new metal, like you get in like Disturbed,
Yeah.
and
That's
then I got really into that and kind of forgot about Pearl Jam and revisited Ten and Versus and Vitology, not fucking No Code, but got would always have those there and then kind of branched out into different things and just kind of forgot. And when I didn't realize they had like 30 fucking albums since then.
I know.
Like
They
Riot
never
Act,
stop.
I'd never heard of Riot Act until the other day, and I like Googled Pearl Jam albums, like, and then there's the one with the avocado, and then there's like 10 more,
I know.
and
It's
it's
nuts.
it's 6 or 7 more, I think. But
And they
I
did the Dave Matthews Band where they put like hundreds of live album
300,
recordings out.
yeah, they did
So
300 of those, which was crazy. They recorded every one of their shows. And one year they had 70 shows, so they put out 70 albums. And I mean, that's
that's
an interesting move. I kind of hate it, but in some way, I get why they would try it. And then,
yeah.
and plus, do you remember all the $15 3 song, bootleg single things that they did? Like
That we sought after in every little random store we ever went to. Yeah.
on here, yeah.
Yes. They were
And
hard to come by, and yeah, they were a ripoff. But you wanted that one song just because you couldn't
you
get.
wanted you wanted this one for sure with the yellow
Yes.
leather footsteps, but you're not paying. You paid 12. Your mom was nice enough to get me that for my birthday one year.
Nice. Well,
Yeah,
speaking of my mom, the bio is it biurnal or bioral? I think it's bioral, or I don't know.
binaural.
Okay.
I,
My mom was the one that was like, "Hey, you might want to listen to this. It doesn't suck like the
it
last two."
doesn't suck. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's some
but it's
cool songs on there, and that one I think the Yield had some cool songs, but it also had some weird ones, and it was like really kind of like bipolar, but it
yeah,
was
yeah,
but you could sit down and listen to it without. wanting to shoot yourself in the fucking head, like no code. But no,
I think
yeah, binaural was. I like binaural. It was listenable, and it had a couple that I didn't connect with either one of them super deeply, but
no,
it
right.
was fine.
Maybe two songs that you
Yeah,
would listen to a few more times, but
right.
not the stuff in between. It was very much you hear it and you hear it, and next time you hear it, you don't remember it. Just not anything special. I mean, you have to think of it probably from the standpoint of that band as a unit, because that happens to most all bands where they start. And Pearl Jam had a very overnight success with 10. Like
Yeah,
they
they
just
all
threw
did.
those songs on there and crossed their
Yeah,
fingers, and holy shit, everybody loves it. But in terms of the output, of a band, the capability of what they can kind of produce, I'm sure being such, master creators in those first three albums, you're gonna have a bit of a dry spell. You're also your priorities are gonna changing. Like they were probably all rich,
which is fun. Yeah,
figuring out their families because now they're not kids anymore and they're meeting. I don't know anything about their personal lives, but I'm just saying there's probably like look at Aerosmith's like kind of another longevity example where they had great success, huge albums, and then they have all sorts of oh my god, way too much drugs, way too much turmoil, and they put out some absolute garbage that no one has wanted to hear about ever since. So I mean, I think there's probably some of that. Again, it's not to excuse, but to your point, I think it was them leaving grunge behind or trying to shed
they
the
absolutely.
unpopular,
Yeah,
because that was dead by 2000. And you brought up the exact reason why I think I stopped was the new metal genre, and getting girlfriends, listening to what your girlfriend was like, and I don't think Pearl Jam was ever. It's a very guy band. Like I think
yeah,
mostly only guys liked it. I mean, of course, there's exceptions. My mom liked them, but like so like I remember that very distinctly. Like my girlfriend was like, ew, like that, no. And so then that made it not cool for me to be blasting it all the time. And yeah, things like corn and Limp Bizkit and all that garbage
yes,
that I don't really.
that stuff was it was way more interesting than what Pearl Jam was pulling out.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
It was like from glam metal to Nirvana.
Right,
It was sort of that. It wasn't that drastic, maybe,
right,
but it was definitely a thing where like it was just the stuff they were pulling out there was just it was kind of boring a little bit,
right.
like,
Yeah, totally.
and then the girlfriend and just the life stuff and going to college and trying to get laid and all those things, drugs and whatever. But like, yeah, it didn't help their cause at all when they were pumping out stuff, which I think, and I've read, I've talked to people like it seems like it feels like, and I kind of hope it's the case, is they just didn't want the fame anymore and they just wanted
Probably.
to and they didn't want to make singles because clearly they weren't good at it, or
Yes.
either they weren't terrible at it or didn't want to do it and wanted to make their own thing, and that's fine too. But they clearly shut the door on the grunge,
Right.
like their grunge era, right? And that turned me off. Probably turned other people off. They continue to sell albums to this day, so there's clearly people that like that. And I think, at least from what I've heard, because there's fucking 12 albums I still didn't know existed and don't like haven't heard, but the ones that I have heard, eh, like it's in a vacuum. If you separate it from the grunge and you don't
Right.
expect it to be grunge, it's whatever style of music it lands on. It can be good to a lot of people. Not it would just wasn't really my taste.
I mean, it's an interesting thing to hypothesize about because grunge is a hard
Hard
thing to kind of to,
define.
to to break it apart and figure out what its pieces were. I
Right.
mean, I'll make a loose attempt. It was, very very introspective lyrics, very personal lyrics, telling stories of really dark themes
Yeah.
and more melancholy draped around all of it. So I think that to me is what Nirvana, Alice in Chains. It was very
But
much.
with like a driving energy, though.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, right. The music was exuding those feelings in terms of, being mad or frustrated, and that's different because everything before it was like party all the time, drugs, girls, like
Right. For Metallica,
rock lifestyle.
just yeah.
And so that was what it, and so I think that's why teens specifically gravitated towards. They're like, you're speaking my language. I fucking hate my life, and you're talking about the same things I'm thinking about. But yeah, to then the point of them flipping the page, and then I this is a harsh term, but then it was more just generic rock, like
It was.
to me, Foo Fighters. They're an okay band. I like their first few albums way more similarly, but to the rest. But they just kind of became, you know,
Generic rock.
chords, riffs, lyrics, very generic sounding chord progressions and
Pearl
themes
Jam
and
went
stuff.
there. Yeah, and
And
Pearl Jam ended up there. Yeah.
yeah, they fit into that similar, just like hammering it out, but not really anything that rose above a certain watermark level of greatness. It was just kind of okay, fine,
Yeah.
background music on the radio. But yeah, I think give Riot Act, and that was as far as I got on
This is
my
where
the length
yes,
of my.
that was my next question: is how far have you gotten? Because there's Riot Act, then there's the Avocado one, there's Backspacer, Lightning Bolt, Gigatron, and Dark Matter.
It's nuts.
It-
There's there was on Spotify there's like a greatest hits playlist, and I was looking at that before this because yeah, if I was gonna do that, it would just be the first three albums done. Like that's the greatest hits.
right.
But this one almost had nothing from No Code and Yield, which again is validating. But it had a lot from Backspacer, so I'm guessing that one has
That's my
some
next.
gold to be mined,
Yeah.
as well as
We'll have to
the
do. We'll have to make this a two-parter and like
yeah,
revisit those, and then come back and
right.
see
I think we
where
should, but
finish the journey.
Riot
Yeah,
Act definitely stopped me in my tracks where I was like, all right, so hold on, I got to give this like
yeah.
a couple dedicated listens because there is a lot to love here that is interesting and sounds reminiscent of what I liked. But I don't know if this is a Chicago thing because Eddie is he's very Cubs obsessed. He's here all the time performing at Wrigley Field with Pearl Jam. Um,
I'm from
but there
Elmhurst,
is
right?
so much of like a dad following here, like for Pearl Jam. Like I see dads like exact our age, like 40 to 50, that they're always rocking Pearl Jam hoodies, hats from the latest tour, all the latest tour merch they're
Oh
wearing,
wow,
and they go like to every show every summer, like so it's a huge cult in the
that must
Chicago
it's
area.
gotta be a Chicago thing. I've never
Yeah,
seen
I
it.
think it must be like with the word Wrigley Field, because I know multiple like people like dads on soccer team, friends in the neighborhood, and they've
Really?
got their kids all obsessed with Pearl Jam. So I mean, it's like it's kind of in the dad rock, like there's lots of these new
Yeah,
reclassifications of this kind of stuff, and dad rock Pearl
that
Jam is
was.
definitely in, which
I've
is
not
why we're
heard
doing it on Flannel
that.
Dad's podcast. So
That's hilarious. I have not heard that, but it makes
yeah,
total sense. So this picture here is that's them playing at Wrigley.
nice. Well, that's a good. I've only seen them once, and you were with me. Do you have any memories of note from that? I think it was again
September
memory
1995 in Milwaukee.
95. Yeah, I knew it was post Vitology, and
I was going to grab the ticket stub. I still actually have it,
I
but
think I might have it somewhere too.
yeah,
So yeah, it was at
I got a funny. Yeah, it was
it was at that shitty place,
Milwaukee Amphitheater at Summerfest. Is that
right?
what they called it? Summerfest. So it's
Yes, Summerfest. That was
we
the one. Yeah.
yeah. And yeah, and that was like basically that was my first like big concert. So yeah, I remember a lot. I got a funny story. I don't know if I feel like I might have told you. I know I've told somebody semi recently, like in the last 10 years. But so when I was in Bloomington for school in like 2001 or two, I was in whatever apartment I was when September 11th happened. So
Okay.
so probably one or two. I was LimeWire. I think I was a Napster guy, so I was Napstering. I found this like just this Pearl Jam's live song that just kicked my ass. I just loved it so much, and it was called Maggot Brain, and it
Hmm.
said it was from the '90s. The names of those files were just cryptic,
Yeah,
weird
yeah.
like, but it did say like 2005 on it. And so I just loved this song for years and years and years, and listened to it and put it on. Emily, I'd make her a burnt CD. I'd put it on and like just listen to it all the time and just loved it. And it was what it was is they started playing Little Wing
Ah,
and kind of like merged it with this Maggot Brain song from I can't think of the name of guy, but they turned this into this thing. They let Mike McCready just rip for like
nice.
5 straight minutes. It was like a 10, 11 minute song, and just loved it. And then when burnt CDs and LimeWire and all that stuff went away, I found myself like missing it. And then I think it was we were in I think South Carolina when it happened. It was probably so 15 years later, 15, 16 years later, I missed the song. So I tried to like find it, and I actually found the YouTube of it. And it was actually literally from the show we were at.
Oh my god, that's
Yeah.
cool.
And I'll send you the link. I don't know if maybe it was Emily I was telling about it, but yeah. So that I just remember the show itself was amazing. It was like my first big
Yeah,
concert. Like I was 12, 13, and
right. Probably.
it was awesome. And I've never seen him since. Never, once No Code came out, I had no fucking desire to see them live, just in case they played any of those. But yeah, that was a huge thing in my life. I loved that show. I base like any show I see kind of on how that show made me feel. I don't
Yeah,
remember that particular song being played. Obviously, it wouldn't have taken 15 years to remember it,
right.
but yeah, and I'll send you the link. It's really poor quality, but we were there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, that's awesome.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't have. I mean, I think my mom was with us, if I'm remembering.
yeah, yeah.
But because we couldn't drive yet.
Right. At least
But
Dayton's been there with us too. I don't know.
yeah, there's probably a couple others. But yeah, I wish my memory
Better, right? I
was
know.
better, like to remember like specific songs. But I just remember it met our expectations and then some in terms of
Yeah.
just the
I remember
songs they
how it made me
chose.
feel. I don't remember exactly what we saw, and like, I mean, I can
Right.
kind of picture and like just like like fading, kind of like fuzzy pictures of like where we were to the stage and
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
what
I can kind
our
of right.
seats look like. They're like bleacher kind of deals, I think.
Yeah,
But like, I remember those things, and but like, I just remember it was awesome. It was like
yeah.
awesome.
And that's kind of my fear. I mean, similarly to there being 12 albums that have, or however many that have happened since our time, that if I would go to see them now, because again, I feel like a FOMO kind of going on where I see all these guys with this cool merch. They're obviously fucking loving it, going over and over.
They've been with it the whole time, and
And so I'm
yeah,
like, I want to go because I still, but then I'm scared because then I don't want there to be like, oh, there's one song I know and then six I don't.
that's and I think that I've always pictured it. That's how it would be. It would be
Yeah,
like one, and they would like end with Yellow Ribbon or something. Like
right, right.
I feel like that's how I've always felt their shows would go. No clue, no proof of that,
Yeah,
no evidence of that, but that's how I always feel. So that's why I never. They've come through here a few times. When I lived in St. Louis, they came through twice in 2 years. The 2 years I lived there, just didn't feel like I wanted to spend that kind of money to listen to.
I I think I'll give it a try next time they come around. I think I'll make an effort. But I mean, the other thing, and this was something I wanted to talk about, is in my deep dives into verses and vitology specifically, Eddie sings so fucking harshly.
Just
Like he's
energy.
screaming like the most amount of sound and energy you can possibly put through that instrument of your body, like in every song almost. And I'm just like, dude, like how are you still doing that 30 years later? Like
Well,
I'm curious. He must still sound pretty good, or they wouldn't put butts in seats and they wouldn't be still thriving in 2026. But like I don't know how that man is because again, we play and we sing and we cover songs, and like he's one of the most impossible people to emulate. Like I can kind of get a little bit here and there, but then like some songs can't even touch any of it. Like it's just too high, too harsh, too screaming.
On those
Um,
al- on those
what's that?
particular on those
Yes,
particular.
on those particular albums. Like I think he was trying to like almost outdo himself. Like from 10, because 10 he's pretty raw and he's
Very
not
energy.
floating
Yeah.
any ballads or soft stuff. It's hard stuff. But
And
then
first,
Verses of Vitology, it's like there's just certain songs where I'm just like, you know,
Rearview Mirror is just like screaming like
right.
from like guttural like the whole time, like things like
I
that.
would
Yeah,
think you'd be done immediately. Like again, and some of
maybe
that
and
maybe
maybe
studio.
they could explain why the albums going forward you didn't hear any of that.
Yeah, right.
There's
It could
just
be
this,
he.
and a couple of them it sounded like kind of whiny and like like maybe maybe wore himself out, but like that can't be it because he's been doing this for so long. Maybe just realized I can't. This is not sustainable
Right.
to do.
I
But he
don't see
still
how
has
it
to do
could
it
be.
live though. But he still has to do it live, and they still do. So, but yeah, no, that's an. I'm glad you brought that up. But like, because I was thinking when I was revisiting No Code, Binaural, and the other one, Yield. There's none of that. None of
Right.
it.
It's very
None.
subdued.
None.
I another funny recent thing. I saw Eddie Vedder was getting interviewed by Howard Stern. Fairly, it looked like a fairly recent one, and I mean, we're all victims of clips and pieces of these like cool interviews that people do, and so this was just a short clip, but it was interesting to me because it was Howard was asking him about the song Glorified G, which you and I both really, really like that one on Versus. It's one of
Oh,
the shining, shining songs in that album. And Howard was saying um, to Eddie, why do you hate this song? And Eddie's like, I don't hate it. And then Howard pulled up this clip where Pearl Jam was performing it somewhere, and he says, glorified G, I hate this song. And so like Eddie was singing false lyrics to it. And
yeah.
so I was like, why were you singing that in that song? And he's like, and then he was like, oh, I don't have any issue with the song, but he was like saying that show he was like doing something the day before and probably stayed out too late and partied or something, and so to play it is an extremely taxing experience. And so, and again, that's the point of what we're talking about. Like, so I
Yeah.
bet even his range has like, all right, these are easy ones, these are mid range, and these
Oh
are
yeah.
like I have to save these for specific points in the concert, or else I burst
Can't
my
do it.
all my
Yeah.
juice. And so that one sounds like one that he has to save up the energy for. And to the earlier point, I know they like to print out their set lists for their concerts, and like because I've seen people that have like signed versions of them where it's handwritten
Oh,
set lists that they have on at the concert for like the
awesome.
drummers and the people to
Yeah,
know
yeah.
what song next. But so I'd be interested to look at those recent tours just to kind of say, all right, there's the ones I know, here's the ones I don't. I need to go listen to those ones, whatever albums they're on, to start catching
Interesting.
up on what they're kind of still, what the fan favorites are maybe. So
Yeah.
that's an idea
No,
I've
it's
been.
definitely on my to do. And I was trying to do it now, life, dad, flannel dads, being a dad, got in the way. I was trying to catch up. I, again, didn't realize there were so freaking many. I thought there was
Yeah,
four. I thought there was three or four. I really
right.
legitimately thought that. And so I was like, I'll start with no code and then I'll, do the thing. And then I was like, there's still 5, 6 left. So I'm definitely going to do this exercise and see, I'm going to do it on my own first and kind of get my own like because these are some albums I've never heard. These are songs
Right.
I probably caught one on the radio. I know,
Yes.
you know, we had one of our wedding songs was on one of these albums. I don't know which one.
Hmm.
You know, I have no fucking clue which one it is. But like Emily found it, and I don't know where she found it, but I'm gonna find out and like do my own kind of analysis or just see how put it on, see how it feels. And then I like that idea though of like set lists and like what they're currently playing and like what
Yeah.
your what your soccer dads are listening to, like
Hmm.
what like how they get to there in that journey, like what was their journey like. So
Right.
yeah,
And that, I mean, like I mentioned, my recent Grateful Dead obsession, that's a kind of a similar thing in that world where they had so many great songs, and people would go to a show and you're only going to get a tiny cross section of what they can put out in
it's
three
so much.
hours.
Yeah,
And so it's like a gift when you get, your song to come on in that show you're at. And so I
yeah.
think, it's similar, like I bet Yellow Ledbetter is like everybody goes fucking nuts when that one comes on, or a
Black.
few others that are
Yeah,
seldomly played.
yeah, yeah. That's interesting because they have such a huge catalog. I think it's 200, 250 songs. Like
Right.
it's, I mean, it's a lot.
And they
And
do what, 15 in a show? Like
right.
concerts are not that many songs with
And
with
the
all
and
the
the core, the core three, that's 35 songs. And then you add the single soundtrack and Yell Loud Better, and you get maybe 40 out of 200 and
right.
whatever. So like I would love to like see that, like which ones, like I would love some sort of like data analysis on like which ones they play more and like at different
Yeah, that's
shows.
all out there. I've seen that for other bands.
Really? Yeah.
Well, the Grateful Dead, I mean, they have like the most crazy followers, but
Yeah.
when they had the Sphere residency for a little while, I saw there were sites that had that exact kind of, this
Oh,
song was played 3 times on these dates, this one 10 times, this one not never played. So yeah, I bet there's a Pearl Jam similar site out there that'll give you that tour analytics of that. But yeah, I mean, like
that'd be
thinking,
really interesting. That'd be really interesting.
but back to the blowing out his voice, like he's probably not going to put a Spin the Black Circle, and
Good one. Good.
like
Yeah.
like or
Good.
the
Good.
ones that are just like, or like Blood is another one where it's just like the whole song is just like him screaming,
Just from
it's
like right here, just the whole
right.
time, like that has to take a toll. Like, yeah.
That's again part of the rough edges of Verses and Vitology, is because they left in, like, there's certain points where you hear his voice
Crack.
break or
Yeah.
crack or strain or
You Leave
fry out.
Alone is beautiful. That's some of
Right.
my favorite stuff. Like,
I know it's so cool to hear that's the limit of
yeah,
human capability of
well,
putting
it
out
is. Yeah, yeah,
audible
I mean,
sounds.
Chris Cornell could have, he or Lane Staley would have been fine, but like
Yes.
that's just his whatever, and that's fine. It's, not everybody's those two people. Like, and that's what's awesome is they left that in there, but they didn't even try it going forward. But
Yeah, I know.
I've heard maybe in Riot Act and going forward, maybe they tried it. I don't know. I hope they
Yeah.
did. I hope they did.
I don't think they do. But again, maybe
Maybe
I think I'm going to
it's
start.
human
I'm going to
limitation.
start from the newest and go back, I think, is my next
Oh,
strategy. Just to be, it's because I've constantly gone from the stuff I know, and then you feel the drop off. But I think maybe to go as
well,
far away from it.
I have heard. I mean, read it or whatever, something that the very later ones are getting back to
Okay.
trying to. I think, but no, it's Reddit, maybe Twitter or something. Like I don't know, but like I like to. I think I want to. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna continue my path and go chronological and try to build up to it and see. Just try to feel what the Chicago dads journey
Yep.
was like.
Whatever they're
I want to try
drinking.
that path. Yeah, yeah.
But that
Just
was another interesting. You should check out that Brendan O'Brien interview because
oh
it
my
was
god. Yeah.
extremely interesting. He was a really cool. I mean, sounded like a really cool producer that just kind of got assigned to them, and then he like really made an effort. I want to produce your guys' follow up to 10, and but he had a lot of interesting things where, like, as a band, they didn't really know what they wanted, like, or they didn't know what would be a hit or what wouldn't be a hit. And so having the producer like him, kind of like Better Man was a big thing in the interview. Like, he had to fight tooth and nail to get them to accept that, and it was one of their biggest songs ever. in terms of
Yeah.
plays and helping contribute to the album, but they didn't want anything to do with it, and they kept saying no, no. And similarly, in the Howard Stern interview, um, Yellow Ledbetter was supposed to be on 10, and
Yeah.
it got voted out.
I,
I don't know
I've
if you
heard that.
saw that, like, and
I've heard that. Yeah. Yeah.
because the
That's
lyrics weren't done or
fucking
something.
insane.
I
Think
know.
about it. Like, that is so crazy.
Well, it makes sense because the lyrics don't make any sense much. They're
The-
just kind of yeah.
no, yeah. What lyrics? Yeah. But that is such a crazy thing. And like the fact that they didn't like push it to the next album is pretty weird
Right.
too. Like
It was right.
it would,
They
I mean, it
dropped.
wouldn't fit in on that album either. But so
No.
like, I think they did it right. Put it on this fucking thing,
Yeah,
and
we all bought that too. So you
we
got
all bought this for $13. And Footsteps, yeah, that was nice. That was a cool one too. I think
I don't
there's
remember that one. I
that's
remember the name of it, but I honestly don't remember the song
oh yeah,
itself.
that's like my wife's favorite song. That's of theirs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
Was the one at your wedding Just Breathe? Am I remembering that correctly?
yeah, no clue what album it's on, but it was.
No, but
Yeah.
I wanted to
I'm
make
gonna
sure I
find it when I do my journey through the next 12 albums I have to go through. But
but that's another hilarious thing that I'm kind of noticing with Eddie singing. As much as I love it, he does not enunciate like many of the other grunge singers.
can I
Like
say
like
this? This is a hot take. He's not that great of a singer. Like
right. I mean,
in a
he's
vacuum.
got a range. He can hit notes, and he dynamically in terms of softness and loudness. He's one of
It's
the best. But yeah, in terms of understanding, because he's probably got one of more songs where I have never known what he said, and I have my own stupid shit that I think he says, and it makes no sense, but that's the only way
everybody.
I know it.
Yeah.
Like on and the only time I correct this is when I try to play a song, because then I'm reading the lyrics. I'm like, oh, that's what he says.
It's like I
Um,
didn't ever live.
like Rearview Mirror's got a bunch where I remember I recorded
Oh my
a
god.
bad version of me trying that one, and some of those things that I read in there, I'm like, that's the first time I'm reading that's what he was saying.
That's a
But I
crazy.
think in
I did that not that long ago. Like I'm talking like months. Like read the lyrics. It's one of my favorite Pearl Jam songs. It would be my top three or five.
right, I
Absolutely.
know
But I
it's
have no
for
fucking
sure.
idea. I never had a clue what he was saying. So I YouTubed or whatever, and I had no clue half of those words. But I
I
was
know he does use big words that don't like he looked them up in a thesaurus, like like
yeah,
what's a big word here that's got three syllables, like because I
like
think that one he uses
fidelity.
indemnity many times, like indemnity gauged. I'm like, what are you trying to say, dude? But my
Hell's
favorite
Indemnity.
one is or the favorite one that I have no idea, like Dissident on the Versus album, which
Love
was I
that
think
song.
a pretty big hit. Like it was always on the radio, and
It was one of the three big
it was
ones.
like one of the second or third singles to come out. But like I don't know what they're talking about. Like I know what a dissident is, like a political figure that's been kind of pushed out of something, but the lyrics are talking about a lady and something. But after the big like it sounds like he says she boned him. Like that's what I
Yes,
hear
it does.
every time.
That's what, that's what everybody hears. Yes.
And I'm like, what?
I've never bothered to look that one up. What does he actually
No,
say?
I don't know. I never looked it up. I just like keep singing along my own she boned him, and
Phone dude. I'm
but
fine
there's
with
tons like
it.
that.
I
There's
haven't. Yeah.
tons that I don't know at all. Like um again, I've been really drawn to Last Exit, the first track on Vitology lately. Because that in the beginning it was just kind of because it's got kind of the weird sound effects, like a train
Oh,
stopping at the beginning, like
oh yeah.
squeaks and things, and then the drums come in super hard, and that I learned to play it, and it's like such um, a weird like, and this was something else I wanted to kind of talk about. Their riffs are so unique. They're not like power chord riffs like many of the grunge
Oh yeah.
bands
Then
or
Mike
power
McCready
chords.
credit to yes, yeah. And it's
But this like Last Exit is like a quick juxtaposition between two different chords. It's like C, D, C, D, just like in a rhythmic pattern that makes it like super cool. Like I was really surprised when I found that one. But that one, again, I think it spoils it to some extent when you go and say, what's this song about? And someone else's interpretation is informing you what it's about. So I don't do that
Yeah.
very often. But Last Exit, since I was trying to play it, trying to sing it, listening to it many times, it sounds like it's about surfing.
Huh.
Because he's talking, and he's a big surfer, and so I think, and there's a lot of ocean references in Vitology, like all over different songs. Even small oceans make big waves is in Tremor Christ or one of the later
Yeah.
songs. Um, and so, but if you listen to it, it sounds like I don't know what the Last Exit title means necessarily, but it's talking about like getting ready, grabbing on, getting ready to fall off, like trying again. Um, and so yeah, listen to that one again and try to think through the lyrics and try to like make sense of it because
Huh.
and that's why I think Vitology. You said you're more verses. I think I'm a little bit more Vitology just because the
Interesting.
songs are talking about something profound and interesting, but I can't quite get my grasp on what they are. So I'm constantly pulled in to more absorb it and more understand it. Whereas like again, back to what I said, 10 straightforward. The stories are straightforward. The lyrics are very much more clearly understood. But versus like Glorified G is another like why did they talk about a guy like that that's like has guns and is trying to be cool and but he's a total loser. Um like and so then you think about the context of where did they must have known somebody or
Right. Right.
seen people that were like that were had such an impact that they wrote a song about it. So that
So you mentioned that you lean Vitology into like over verses. That's interesting to me. I like they both have like super charged energy to them both, right? I give keep like like keep talking about like the depth of the meaning is it's that's what it felt like you were saying about
yeah I was thinking about I think the stories they're telling, because again, if you think back to 10, they were
pretty
mostly about like Jeremy was about a very specific, event person that really did those things. Even Flo was, some homeless guy. And, so they were more like observational outside looking, in at something. And they were less personal because Jeremy, that didn't happen to them. That it wasn't stuff that happened to them. But as verse and Vitology start unfolding, I think they became way more personal. Like they were real personal stories, and that's why I think "Not for You" is it like if I'm picking up what he's putting down, and there's a couple lines that draw me to this realization. It sounds like because he's fucking pissed in that song when he screams "Not for You." He's so
hmm,
angry, like it's the most angry you're gonna hear his voice
utterly.
get.
Yeah, yeah.
And so if you flip that back a little bit, he says something, small my table, it fits just two. Like, and so I'm envisioning he's having like dinner in a restaurant, and the
One
song is all about like all these people stormed my room. Where did they come from? And like
huh.
like they're trying to get an autograph or they're trying to get into his personal life when he's having a personal moment and he just fucking loses his shit and like this is not for you, like get the fuck
Oh,
out of it. And so
interesting.
that when I started getting pieces of lyrics that seemed to be in that like he's found fame, everybody knows who the hell he is, he's everywhere, and you
He's
can't
sick of it.
be a
He's
normal
fucking
guy
sick of it.
anymore. And
And that would
so
explain a lot of their albums going forward, not having
right,
hits, not having like
right,
whatever.
stop bothering us, stop invading our personal space. So I mean that's where I start to find a deeper connection to it, that it was they were pouring their heart and soul into the lyrics. It wasn't just, oh, look at that cool weird story over there. Let's make a like Daughter or Dissident. They're situational dramas is what they're talking about. A
Yeah.
girl and a guy and they're having a thing, but it's nothing about their personal
Damn.
struggle.
No.
Whereas I think Vitology, like there's some Tremor Christ, I don't know what it's about, but it's like a weirdly religious, connotation of some sort. So I mean, I think that's a
They do that a
grappling
couple
with
times. They do
faith of
that.
some sort.
Yeah, they do that. They do that a couple times. I've found just in
Right.
from no code to the next two. There's a
Right.
couple of
Like
those too.
devil and angel fighting, like good and
Yeah,
evil
he's definitely got
type
a
kind of.
like a he's yeah. It definitely seems like there's a religious confusion. That's not whatever, but like there's some sort of working through that
Yeah,
going
struggling to make
on
sense of
during.
being a millionaire rock star and still, like again, I'm
No,
portraying myself as if it was me, and I'm sure those are things you have to kind of grapple with. It's like
you have to.
I'm not a normal person anymore. I'm a public figure that now has to
Maybe
act
he wasn't
different.
comfortable with it. Kurt Cobain wasn't comfortable with it. Like,
No,
who would? Who was? Like,
right. So I think that is a lot of what they were trying to do. And yeah, and while I like it, other people probably preferred the more situational drama type songs that were less less real, less hitting at nerves type material, and that
Interesting.
may be why the popularity kind of started to not continue to go up, but flatlined and tapered off a little bit. I don't know. Again, I'm you know
I
I'm putting
I
a
had
lot
this
on me. Might not be
conversation. I had this conversation with like people I'm close to now. Like, I don't like. I don't necessarily. So I'm different than a lot of people. I don't necessarily like dive into the lyrics and what they're saying.
Mhm.
I think of the vocals as just an instrument,
Yeah,
like the music,
the melody that
the
they're putting out. Yeah,
melody, and the like that's how I listen to music. And I mean, there's certainly some exceptions. Don't get me wrong. That the lyrics, it touch me or whatever. But there's a lot of times that the lyrics don't even come through to me. The
really.
the vocals do. The
Okay.
the
No, I
pitch, the pitch and the whatever. And that's why like Yell Ledbetter is one of my favorite songs. I don't know what the fuck he says. I don't give a shit what he says. He could be
that one right.
be
And that's how they get away with it. I would suppose is
yeah,
that he's an amazing melodic vocalist that matches the music and the chords
he
and
was
does an
for a while.
excellent
Yeah,
job.
yeah.
But the reason, again, while I'm listening, it's not that I am fixating on the lyrics necessarily. It's usually when I listen to
Maybe a
things so
compliment.
many times, it'll get stuck in my head, like a piece of a song, and then it just goes
And you're
over
like,
and over that lyric, and I'm like, what are we talking about here? What are we talking about here? Oh, it could
you
be
did
that. Oh, that
dive
makes
deep
sense.
into it, yeah.
That was how like Last Exit was, right? I like kept picking up all this, like again, probably after the interview that I watched because he was talking about surfing, and then I started thinking, well, this sounds like somebody that's going out on the waves, and all the kind of things that seem to be building. And the end of Last Exit is like my one of my favorite moments where he has this amazing like guttural scream, like it's like the apex of the song right
I
before
know what
the
you're
end, which
talking
is
about.
like
Yeah. Yep.
let my spirit rise, I think is what he says, but he's screaming like so loud. And that to me, it's like it always makes goosebumps back of my neck, hair stand up, like that kind of stuff every time. It's just like wow, like such a perfect build and crescendo and explosion. But again, it kind of felt like in the surfing, like when you have the
Oh,
perfect wave, like and everything,
it's got to
because
be
that's a
awesome.
very kind of trial and error. As much as I know about it, you got to have the perfect thing to work its way into alignment, and that's when I started thinking it in that context. I was like, I think that's what he's going for. So again, I don't want to look it up and be like, oh, it's about fucking something stupid that
It's the
doesn't have any
fun.
meaning. It'll ruin that. So I'm not. I'm just going to pretend.
And
But
that's
other
yeah.
songs like "Spin the Black Circle," as clear and straightforward as can be. It's
Yeah.
somebody playing a record, and it was a very profound experience. So again, they kind of flip flop between extremely simple to extremely you know brooding back of their mind kind of thoughts and kind of things they're trying to work out. So that's why I find it a lot more interesting. Um, but
Hmm.
yeah, and then they always seem to
I'm
put
like
like a
yeah,
joke song, kind of like they had the Bugs song, and
raps and yeah,
right.
yeah.
There's always like, and I kind of have grown to
I love
like
them.
them.
Yeah. I
Um,
love it. Like
they're
the
just kind of, but
fun.
I've heard some of these other people that, like I said, the Chicago fan base that I've talked about Pearl Jam, and
Uh,
most of them have, that I've talked about, I've heard that they hate those. Like those are like
really
disregarded, like outtakes almost. That, but I don't
bugs.
skip them. Like I let them play, and
Well,
um,
like bugs is one of them. Sure, but
Bugs
like
is the more. But there's Pry 2 on Vitology, where it's just him spelling privacy. Privacy.
yeah, I didn't. Yeah, I didn't like. I need
That
to.
one is
Yeah, I didn't like that one. But
no,
maybe
that one is but they're all like they're all jams, like in that they were just, the band was grooving, there was a beat, and they probably just didn't find lyrics, or they didn't have
but I
anything,
just
and so
fucking Eddie say whatever the fucking
right,
say and made a
that's what I
song.
think they are, and
That's
that's why I
kind of
think they're kind of fun, that they're
yeah.
just loose kind of releases of, we're not trying to be serious, we're just fucking around. So so I don't know, but that also, I don't think I remember that in the albums after that as much, but maybe they're just not as memorable because I didn't listen to them.
Well, I think there are a couple. Like, what else could explain some of the things that I've heard revisiting them? Like, there could be. I think they just like just humored themselves.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and like
Well,
fucking, they deserved
you
it.
have to think of, when you're a huge act that has been successful, the record companies become pretty forceful with you in
Yeah.
terms of,
And you have to
now
go
do that again.
record a record, and they're like,
Right. And they sign a deal for X number of record. Like that's what I bet it was. They signed a 3 record deal, and they're like, fuck this, I'm gonna put some fucking garbage on it.
well,
And
we ran out of our backlog. We put two of them on the single soundtrack. The other one's
right,
fucking on the
right.
B sides of some bullshit. Like, or, like they probably ran out of like some of their best stuff, and it's hard to come up with stuff.
Was like Pink Floyd is another example I always kind of compare, where Dark Side of the Moon and everything before that, they were struggling to find their place. Then they become the biggest rock stars in the world.
Yeah,
And then Wish You Were Here is kind of like, that's all about them dealing with that. Like, we're,
yeah, it's
the record company's telling them what to do, everything being forced upon them. And,
so
and so I'm
God.
sure it was the same with Pearl Jam. They had 3 huge records, and then they were being steered in every which way to sound more like this, sound less like that, change, grunge is dead, do this. And they were just probably like, fuck you guys, we're just going to do whatever the hell
We're
we
gonna
can
put out
churn out without any heart in it. And
we're gonna put out one of the worst records of all time that any of us ever put out. It's a hot take, I know, but I'll say it. I'll say
yeah,
it.
it's something. And you have to think, like,
How in your like if you were them, like
right, if you had all the
you're
money you could ever
exhausted.
want,
You're
and
rich, sure, but like fuck.
well,
You man.
exhaustion is a good example of having to tour and tour and tour, and then go in the studio and record over and over and
With
over again.
people in your ear now telling you what the fucking people like.
Right, and you're
Yeah.
tired, and so I would imagine. Well, I think that happens to most bands once they become big. They're not struggling for anything anymore, and I feel this in songwriting. Like if I'm super happy, I got shit to say. Nothing. You have to be down in a hole that's struggling to get out, and that's when the interesting stuff comes. But when you're, a bajillionaire rock star that can do no wrong, you could just retire and be good for the rest of your life. It's like, what else do you really have to say, or do you want to say? So I think that's what No Code and Yield are to me. Is just they were big. They were probably sick of each other after being,
They're probably sick of the
roommates, bandmates, busmates for,
yeah.
a decade. And they're just like, can we not?
Can we
for a
just not?
minute.
And whoever was running them was like, no, you need to. And yeah,
Well, I mean, that was you mentioned that earlier of they've stayed together the whole time, but is that the best? Maybe they could have broken up after Vitology, had a hiatus for 5, 10 years, did some solo projects, and then rejoin with that renewed. That might have been something.
it's a model that hasn't. Yeah, I mean, all the
Not
other
many bands have done that, but
Soundgarden could have until they didn't weren't able to do that. But like,
right,
yeah,
right,
who else had the chance to do that? Like, it could have been something, but you know, films. I didn't like them, but people
right.
did. I mean, they sold albums. Like, they did.
I
Like,
think Eddie's solo stuff sold pretty well, right? I mean, he had some pretty big solo hits when he did the Into the Air music, right? That
yeah, the
Alaska,
cover of what's it called?
yeah, the Beatles song, I am mine, or I mean what, something like that,
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like that. But
The
so yeah, he's
the Who cover too. I don't know.
all right.
Yeah, that was cool. I love that one. I thought that was cool shit. I
Yeah,
still listen to that one. Yeah,
yeah. I wonder if they are on tour this summer. I haven't.
they
It
just
seems
came out
it
with
seems
an
like they're
album.
always on tour.
They came out with an album in 2024. So I don't know.
That's probably what they've been shuffling around at these
Cool.
shows. Then
Yeah.
yeah, I'll look it up. I feel like I need to just to kind of stop the speculation and try to
Let's catch,
see
let's catch up. Yeah.
what I've been missing and hopefully be surprised.
I think like a part two of this would be let's listen to the. I'm gonna have to start from Riot Act. You could start from the Avocado.
Yep.
We'll meet on the other side and
Yeah.
see where kind of like where it goes.
Yeah. I think that's a good plan. Cool. Anything
It's
else?
just
I think we've done quite a lot of time on Pearl Jam, so I'm happy.
Yeah, I'm happy too. I think definitely a follow up with the later albums because yeah, I'm kind of embarrassed I I haven't listened to their latest stuff, and
Right.
I think
It's
we even
it's
if
it's a weird.
after we started we're on the ground floor, we are obligated to see it through
Yeah.
the end
We
now. Like,
should have. And again, I don't know the necessary. There isn't one reason. I think we kind of talked through the many distractions and other genres that emerged, but yeah, and it's not only Pearl Jam. I think I've done this with many bands where they hit that peak of they can do no better by you, and then you're just like, they got nothing else to say to me. They can't do any
thanks.
better than that, right?
We do.
Just I'll be fine if that's all you ever give me. I've got enough, and I think that's kind of what it is, where it's like
It's
everything
exactly.
else is just going to be a little bit lesser and lesser of those peaks, and so you're just like, I don't need it. Like I'm fine with the
Fine. I'm gonna.
magic you
You
gave
want?
us. So
Yeah.
it's a stupid.
We had a
It
good
makes no
run,
sense.
and I'll always remember you. Like, yeah,
It's a stupid thing. I don't say that it makes sense, but I think that is truly all it is. It's just you gave me all I need, and now I'm just getting extra credit that I don't,
yeah,
don't need
yeah.
on a perfect score.
No.
All right, cool. Well, thanks for kicking this off. We will see what we can improve as we keep it going. And
The
yeah,
the background, yeah, we got some stuff to that we can. There's opportunity here.
yeah, for sure. Cool. Well, let me know what the footage looks like and what you can edit together, and we'll go from there. All right.
Sounds,
Thanks, dude.
sounds good, brother. Talk to you
Yep.
later.
Take it easy.
All
Yep.
right.
Bye.
Yeah.